The cost of living in America is a topic that's become impossible to ignore. For years, people have heard about the American dream, the idea that hard work and determination lead to success and prosperity. But for many, that dream is starting to feel like a distant memory. In every corner of the country, from bustling cities to quiet suburbs, the struggle to make ends meet has reached a boiling point. The rising costs of housing, food, and healthcare are overwhelming millions of Americans, and more families are finding themselves trapped in a financial web they can't escape. It's a crisis that's unfolding right before our eyes, yet it feels like the nation isn't talking enough about it. Today, we're going to dive deep into the heart of this issue and explore why the cost of living is quickly becoming one of the biggest threats to American life as we know it. Across America, the cost of living is rising faster than most people can keep up with. Over the past decade, prices have surged dramatically in almost every major sector, and wages haven't kept pace. The result? More people are finding themselves falling behind. Whether it's skyrocketing housing costs in major cities like New York and Los Angeles, or the simple act of grocery shopping becoming an increasingly stressful experience, the financial burden is unbearable for many. In 2022 alone, the inflation rate hit 8.5%, the highest it had been in over 40 years, and that number is still climbing. People who thought they could live comfortably on a middle-class income are now struggling just to keep a roof over their heads. Rent prices have gone through the roof, with average rent prices in cities like Miami and Austin spiking by over 30% in a single year. For many, the idea of owning a home is no longer a realistic goal, and even renting is becoming increasingly difficult. But it's not just housing. The prices of food, gas, and other essentials have also seen dramatic increases. A typical trip to the grocery store now costs significantly more than it did just a few years ago. It's an overwhelming situation for many Americans, and it's only getting worse. Housing has always been considered the cornerstone of the American dream. Owning a home, with a white picket fence and a backyard, was once an achievable goal for middle-class families. But now, for many Americans, that dream feels impossible. The rise in home prices has been staggering. In cities like San Francisco, where the median home price is now over $1.5 million, it's no surprise that people are being priced out of homeownership. For most Americans, buying a home is no longer a realistic option. Instead, they are forced to rent, but even that has become a financial strain. In major cities across the country, rent prices have soared. In cities like New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles, rental prices have jumped by more than 30% in the past few years alone. For individuals living paycheck to paycheck, a rent increase of just a few $100s can push them into a position where they have no choice but to move to a less desirable area or face the harsh reality of eviction. Homeownership, once a symbol of success, is now a luxury that only a small percentage of Americans can afford. When it comes to living expenses, food is something we all need, but it's also something that's becoming increasingly difficult to afford. Prices at the grocery store have climbed dramatically over the past few years, and for many families, it's become harder and harder to put healthy meals on the table. In fact, grocery prices in the U.S. have risen by more than 20% in the past 2 years, and that's affecting families across the nation. Fresh produce, meat, dairy, and other essential items now cost significantly more than they did just a few years ago. For families already struggling to make ends meet, these price hikes are unbearable. What makes the situation even worse is the fact that wages have failed to keep up with inflation. The average wage increase over the past 5 years has barely hit 2%, while inflation has outpaced that number by a wide margin. For many people, the cost of groceries is eating up a larger and larger portion of their income. The impact of these price increases is not just financial, it's emotional as well. Families are forced to make tough choices, like buying cheaper, less nutritious food or skipping meals altogether just to make ends meet. This is the reality for millions of Americans, and it's a crisis that seems to be getting worse by the day. When you think about what it takes to live a healthy and secure life, access to affordable healthcare is a basic necessity. Unfortunately, in America, healthcare is becoming more of a luxury than a right for many people. The Affordable Care Act was meant to provide coverage for millions of Americans, but the reality is much different. Even with health insurance, many Americans are finding themselves unable to afford necessary care. Insurance premiums have risen, and deductibles are so high that many people simply can't afford to use their insurance. As a result, many families are forced to choose between paying for healthcare or paying for basic needs like food and housing. Prescription drugs are another massive burden. The cost of medications has risen dramatically, and many common drugs that people rely on have become too expensive for the average person to afford. What's even more alarming is the fact that medical bills are the leading cause of bankruptcy in the U.S. A single hospital visit can result in thousands of dollars in medical debt, leaving people stuck in a vicious cycle they can't escape. Healthcare costs are skyrocketing, and for most Americans, there's simply no way to keep up. The financial pressure caused by the rising cost of living isn't just taking a toll on people's wallets, it's also taking a heavy mental and emotional toll. Studies show that financial stress is one of the leading causes of anxiety and depression, and it's easy to see why. When you're constantly worried about how to pay bills, afford groceries, or keep a roof over your head, it's hard to focus on anything else. The stress can become overwhelming, leading to feelings of hopelessness and despair. For many, it feels like there's no way out. And it's not just adults who are suffering. Young people, who are already dealing with the pressures of student loans and starting their careers, are also feeling the strain. The constant worry about money is affecting their mental health, and it's creating a generation of young people who are struggling to find stability in an increasingly unstable world. So, what can be done about this? The cost of living crisis isn't something that can be solved overnight, but there are steps that can be taken to address the issue and provide relief to struggling Americans. First, the government needs to prioritize affordable housing. There needs to be a focus on creating more affordable housing options and providing incentives for developers to build affordable homes. Additionally, rent control policies should be implemented to prevent landlords from hiking prices to unsustainable levels. Second, wages must rise to keep pace with the cost of living. If people's paychecks aren't increasing at the same rate as inflation, they'll continue to fall further behind. Employers need to offer higher wages, and policies should be put in place to ensure that wages grow alongside the rising cost of living. Finally, healthcare reform is essential. The current system is broken, and it's leaving millions of Americans without access to the care they need. We need to find a way to make healthcare more affordable and accessible, whether through expanding public healthcare options or implementing a more comprehensive health insurance plan. The cost of living crisis is real, and it's affecting millions of Americans every single day. We can no longer ignore the fact that people are struggling to survive in a system that's stacked against them. It's time for change. The American dream should not be just a dream, it should be a reality for everyone. We need a system that values people over profits, that ensures everyone has access to affordable housing, quality food, and health care. It's time to act before the dream slips even further out of reach for millions of Americans.